Welcome. Yeah, so we're recording now. It is solstice of 2023, summer solstice here in the north. Happy Southern Hemisphere people if you are celebrating your winter solstice with us. And I'd like to begin with the prayer because that's how I like to do it. And if you wouldn't mind gathering yourself and bringing your attention as well to our hour together. Give acknowledgement to the holy mystery. I give acknowledgement to my own ancestors of blood. I give acknowledgement to the ancestors who speak through and as the land here in La Subia, Provincia de Granada, Andalucía, and Sur de España. I give acknowledgement to the many forces and powers that support my life and to the ones who support those present here for this gathering and those who would listen in after. May you weave together a kind and connective vessel for this hour of acknowledgement, ritual, and learning for the solstice, thanks to the earth, the sun, the strange thing dreaming us all up, and the opportunity to be here for just a bit together. May the tech hold, and may I be a kind and good teacher. Thanks, Shay. So hi. Good to be with you. Thank you for your trust and your time. The intent is to spend an hour here together to honor the solstice. And I'd like to do a little bit of teaching. And the theme of the teaching is the cost of a conscious life. Is what I decided to call this. And I like sometimes to offer a guiding question. And the guiding question I'm putting out here for our time is as follows. What are you being invited to release or let go of in service to the greater and to allow for who you're becoming? It's kind of straightforward as a question, but there's a lot in there. So we'll explore that a bit and then bring it to direct practice and maybe have a little time to share or discussion after. So before we get to the heart of the matter, I want to take just a moment or two to share about what we're doing as an organization. This is like the friendly commercial part of the talk, but I like what we're doing, actually. It's not totally like that. But we have an ancestral lineage healing course that one is underway and the registration is open for just another day, maybe. And then after that, it opens for the course that begins in August. So you could join the current one, or you could wait and join the one in August if you'd like. That's our most popular course, and it's how to get well with your ancestors if you're not already. If you really want to dive in with all that, there's also a practitioner training that me and the team guide. This will be the 7th cohort. It's centering Asia and Oceania, but it's open to everybody. That begins in the fall. The application period is well underway, but it's still open. We have some in-person events, way to slowly end pandemic. And those are in Germany and France and Ireland. And Ireland's almost full. Germany's got some spaces, France has got more spaces, but that's this July through October. If you want to gather with me and other great ritualists for multiple days of ancestral healing deep dive, those are options. A few other things, there's a course that begins this Saturday called Initiations: A Life of Ritual, which is a look at the human lifespan through the lens of psychology, ritual arts, and rites of passage. And we'll be in the northern summer season, so adolescence through midlife, basically. And it's a great course. We gather 4 times, and could say more about it, but details are on the site. Last 2 things, there's a short course that begins also in early July, Creativity in the Sacred. So I'll be teaching to creativity. You don't have to be an artist per se, but what it is to move in the world in a creative way. And for folks in Asia and Oceania or Europe, you might notice the timing of those live calls is more accessible for you for that one. And finally, if you ever wanted to connect with a practitioner, we have a whole directory of awesome folks around the world, different backgrounds and accessibility means. So lots of options to connect directly with people for ritual and ancestral healing. So Okay, that's a short version of the happenings. Thanks for your interest and for hanging with that. What are we being invited to let go of in order to grow? Of course, is different for everybody. And before I get into that, I want to say a thing about the solstice and why we would explore this theme on the solstice in particular. The solstices, of course, are respectively the longest and shortest days of the year. And so they feel to me like this, like a far point in the slow dance of light and dark of the, of course, the dance of our earth here in the sun. And I tend to experience the equinoxes as a time of recalibrating, renewing, kind of checking in with our trajectory, and the solstices as a time of where it's really possible to make big change or to reset a pattern or to really begin and end a thing at times. And so it's a far point in a cycle. You can work with that a lot of ways, but I don't know how to describe it exactly. It's more this feeling like I've never done bungee jumping, but if you imagine being at the far point of the fall and the cord doesn't break, you're like, whoa, okay. And then you reach, and then then it retracts. So the solstices feel like the far point where maybe you could drop something off or have contact with a force that you can only contact at the far reaches, and then or pick something up. But there's a way in which we're in contact with a kind of thing that's at the far reaches of consciousness. And I think it supports the possibility of a bigger reorganization, or like a handoff to a new reality or a new thing. So in that sense, it's not a bad moment to wonder what's in the way of who we're becoming or where we need to be. Before we get into that, take a minute and just pause with me and notice, if you would, in your own way, where we're at right now. I think the astronomical solstice was just a few hours ago, but notice that all the people you think really well of are in the same sweet planet, in the same slow dance of the solstices and equinoxes and spinning around around the sun. And all the people you don't like very much or even feel threatened by on the same sweet earth. And all the people who are friendly and cruel, same. The dead, the whole traveling library, our moon, our sweet moon, along for the ride, that we are moving together in all of the mess and complexity. So just notice how that is for you personally right now. See if you can feel it. Before we get into this idea of releasing a thing or there being a cost to being conscious, the question, let me see if I can turn up my volume a little bit. People ask if I could speak up. I don't know that I can, but there it is anyways. So I'll try to speak up though. I want to speak for a minute about what matters and what doesn't about being alive. What doesn't matter, it matters a lot while we're alive usually, but what I think doesn't matter hardly at all, if at all, when we die, is our financial condition, our status in life, whether we finished that degree or got the job or didn't get the job or whatever that might be, our whether or not we stayed safe, so to speak, or this thing about playing it safe or avoiding risk. It doesn't matter so much what others think about us. Unless it's certain people, like people that really see us and know us well, their opinions probably matter more. But there's a lot of things that feel like they matter a lot, and they do in a practical way. But on a soul level, our soul's like, it doesn't give a damn about those things. That's not what really matters. And they don't really count beyond our life that much. And in terms of, what does matter, we could say a lot about that, but let's say that it's something like cultivating love and wisdom and presence, perhaps being of service, being ethical, being kind, being awake, remembering what we're doing here, remembering ourselves, things like that. Like actually allowing whatever we think we are to come into congruency with some kind of underlying essence or soul or spirit. And in that way, allowing our sense of identity to become eclipsed or emptied out or transparent a little bit, to contact the, the good stuff that God and reality and the earth are made of, to remember ourselves, right? That matters a great deal. That matters a lot, even after we die. And so what role does sacrifice or letting go of things or releasing things have to do with that? I'll give a few examples. We could say a lot about this, but a few things. There's the idea of a kind of balance that needs to be maintained, something like that. This happens in, it comes up in Yoruba tradition. Happen to be an initiate and a student of West African Orisha tradition. And often when one has a divination, there's a sense, well, you need to make ebo, you need to make sacrifice, you need to make offerings, something needs to happen. You need to give something up, you need to feed the powers, you need to move the energy. It's not just a mental process. Something needs to be done. That something can take a lot of forms, but the underlying principle is that things have a kind of cost. Not that it's only transactional, but there's a kind of sacred balance. And if you're going to take one thing off the scales, you want to enact a thing, then you need to tend to that equilibrium somehow. Acknowledge the way you're moving in the world. And in that way, anytime we're choosing and prioritizing having a meaningful life, we're going to be making certain choices over others. I made a choice along with my wife in the last year. We moved to Spain. I live in southern Spain now. I've never lived more than 5 months outside the United States, and it's our home now. And inshallah, may we stay, may it work out. And I feel good about it. I could say a lot about it, but there were all kinds of doors that closed as well in doing that. To open one door is to close a whole bunch of other ones. And anytime we're moving in a certain direction, there's a cost. There's all the other directions we're not moving in. And it's okay to face that and to speak to it. Yeah. Another principle is this idea of dying during life. There's these different deaths that we move through, that it's a dying of who we've been. This can be communally enacted through a rite of passage, like the death of a certain phase of childhood heading into adolescence, or getting married has its own kind of sorrow, or becoming a parent or becoming an elder, or whatever menopause, whatever the rites of passage might be. Sometimes they're body level changes, sometimes they're outer status things. But the sense is that some part of who you've been is being composted or reabsorbed or eclipsed by who you're becoming. And that sounds nice. That sounds tidy. In practice, it's not very tidy usually. And means a real loss of what was. There's joy in it, but I think in my own life, if I look for an example, it's becoming a dad. I have a 2 and 5-year-old lovely daughters, and it has radically changed my life. And I wouldn't have it any other way. And like, dear God, the part of me that enjoyed like free time or all kinds of things, it just is not available anymore. It is, there's a cost in stepping into that capacity for those who are able and choose to do that, to become a parent. It doesn't biological, not biological, whatever. The consciousness of being a parent, if that's something you choose to embrace, is one that is impactful. And it means something has to go. And that is, it's okay, but it is part of the inhabiting of that choice to be able to grieve and feel what's being let go. A third principle here is, and it's related to the first, I suppose, is really just that of limitation. And knowing that, knowing and embracing and working within the limitations of how brief our life is, of how we might just have a few hours a day where we're clear enough to do something. We might, we might have less years than we hoped, or they might be spent less spaciously than we hoped. I notice myself, I'm 45, and I sometimes am in the consciousness of a 20-year-old who thinks I'm going to live forever. And damn, like, it's not bad, but I have no lack of interests and things I want to do and all that. And some other part of me is just like, oh, it's just like quietly like tap, tap on the hourglass. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to know. Like, I'm not ready to die. I don't want to see it. And I look at the girls, I'm like, I'm definitely not ready to die. I don't want to I didn't la 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 la. And I know better than to live in that like denial consciousness, but it's strong. The impulse is strong to do it. And so there's like a pinch, a contraction, and a discomfort in befriending limitation. It's humbling. But if we can, and to the degree that I have even just a little bit, it can help us to focus and to really make the most of what we're doing here in the moment we have, because it's brief. There's this terrible, I feel like kind of guilty, ashamed in a funny way to bring this in, but there's this metaphor that's used in like business culture. I'm sure it's used in other places as well, but like of the rocks, pebbles, and sand, and I don't even know the source of it, but the basic idea, and you probably have heard it, but you want to make sure to put the big rocks in the jar first, and then the little pebbles, and then the sand and all that. Because if you start with the sand, if you start with like the checking your Instagram and doing all this stuff that is kind of fun to do, but it's not essential. You're not going to have room for the rocks. So the rocks are the essential things. Things like what am I doing with my life? Like, I'm going to spend the next 40 minutes, let's say, being open to the idea of refocusing my life a little bit. Well, where's your focus? What's your priority? What if you get one rock to put in? What's your rock? Like, what do you want to make sure to put in your jar? And then you can, if that's all the way in, then you can check your, watch Netflix for the whole rest of the day. But the rock, I'm suggesting, by whatever name, The rock you might want to put in is like to become profoundly awake during this lifetime. It's really a good priority by whatever name. And it might take, the actual application of it might look like doing things that are very complicated, or like having kids, or going back to school, or quitting a school, or actually getting involved in that relationship, or actually leaving that relationship, or actually like taking up a practice, or leaving the practice that you have that actually has become really stale and needs shaking up. Or so the actual enacting of a priority on your cultivation as a soul can look a lot of different ways. You don't need to know all the details in order to say, this is high priority. I consent to allow this priority to reorganize my life. Take a moment and just notice, and let me qualify it a little. If it doesn't, the language, a specific framing or language about like awakening, or it's kind of like a Buddhist flavored language, or being very cultivated, or very loving and present and kind or wise or whatever, no matter about the specific framing. You have a soul level instinctual idea of what it is to be awake. That's what I mean. Whatever the picture you hold about it is. It can, sure, it can, like, our ideas about that can change over time, but go with your most authentic, deep, personally arising view of what I'm talking about. My question for you, and take just a moment with it, how priority is that for you already? How much is that already what your life is organized around? Just take a minute and notice what feels true for you about it. Whatever that is, there's no right answer to it. We're all gonna, in a sense, we're all gonna get there. We're already there. We don't need to like force the sun to shine or make a thing happen. And there are ways in which a little bit of effort has a place as well. But in this context, I want us to be able to notice what happens when we put that rock in the jar, when we make that central, is that there's a lot of other pebbles and sand and even some other big rocks that aren't going to make it in the jar. Like, I want to write a second book. I want to get to know the plants here. I want to get my Spanish out of this stuck upper intermediate awkward stage. I want to get to know the land here. I want to do all kinds of things for the organization. I want to spend quality time with my family. I want to do all these things. And I do not have the time to do all of those things. Those rocks will not all make it in the jar. And yeah, so it's not often talked about, at least in popular spiritual circles, because there tends to be a focus on the positive. And it's like, oh, operate from a stance of abundance. You can put all the rocks in the jar. You're going to live forever. People don't say that. But this kind of like this undercurrent of like, you can have it all. You can't. There's not enough time. We're going to be dead. You just can't have it all. So, but we can prioritize and connect to like the all within in a real way, so that we're kind of at peace with our level of Spanish and how many books we've written or whatever it might be. And that matters. There's I was thinking about the practitioner training that I guide, and it's a source of real joy in my life through all the the hustle and the admin and the parenting and all the stuff that is important, but sometimes differently demanding. And one of the things that happens for, I don't know, it's not even a quarter of the people, but there's a substantial minority of the people who sign up have a lot of other skills in place, but they're newer to ritual per se. They're ready for it. So like great for the training, but their growth edge is around like really letting the spirits drive a thing. Like they're savvy about culture and history and even holding space and very articulate, anti-oppressive and 10,000 things, which is awesome. And it's newer to allow the elder powers to steer, or even just to have a lot of say. And sometimes though people get really rocked by that. They're like, whoa, this is deep terrain, because it's new to not have to be in control all the time. And it's new to not have all the answers all the time. And it's vulnerable to trust bigger forces in my important decisions about my life. So sometimes that's an edge. And I say that because like to give a few examples, and then to bring to practice, then we'll allow a little discussion. But the kinds of things that common things that I've noticed, that choosing to prioritize being awake might cost you, is it could cost you some relationships that you actually care about a lot. Sometimes you'll find that you need to set a boundary where you didn't totally need to do it before. Or sometimes people will just kind of freak out on you in ways that they didn't before you had all this other energy or spirit stuff happening in your space. And so sometimes people just get like spun out of your life. It's like, well, damn, I didn't like, why'd you freak out on me? Or like, why? Like, I don't understand. But there's a mismatch, like energetically, that wasn't there before. Unless it's worked at in a conscious way, which it often can be, sometimes it'll mean a parting in a way that's surprising. And so sometimes people have a fear that's like, if I prioritize becoming more conscious, I'm going to lose you. And sometimes that's true. You're going to lose people anyways. We're going to die. And so it's better to not use others as an excuse to be stuck. Of course, there's all the distraction and diversion and entertainment and the shows we don't watch. I love shows. I love watching. I think I still like watching TV. I always have. And not just like cable TV, but like good shows. And I hardly ever watch them anymore. I don't have time. And I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be like, damn the second book. I must watch more shows. And so, there's a certain letting go of pleasure of entertainment sometimes, or addiction, and all the partying or whatever it might be. Sometimes there's just not space. Sometimes there's not space for spiritual practice because you're busy writing a second book or having a child, and then you have to be like, oh, parenting is a spiritual practice. It is. And it's not quite the same as meditating. It is, but it's not the same also. Come on now. And like maybe if you've been meditating for like years, you can hold that line, but mostly it's not quite the same. And another thing that occurs to me is just I like intensity personally, it's just part of my temperament. And I have like a short attention span. I like stimulation, intensity. And sometimes to actually deepen in my path, I have found that there's a need for steady consistency. It's harder for me. I can do it, but uh, it 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 means letting go of the addiction to intensity, or at least indulging it less often. So, there's a lot of identity level things we could speak to, but the main principle here is that if you want to renew your intent to let your life be as conscious as possible, or if you want to make that more central than it's been already, it's going to cost you something. And that is so normal. And it's helpful to be able to name it and notice it and allow ourselves to feel it, to recognize it, and to even, and this is where we get to the heart of what we're doing here, to even proactively wonder, what can I, like, rather than having it taken from me, especially with our 2-year-old, bless her, man, she's got one more day of having to wear her uniform to school. She hates putting it on. Ooh, as a morning process. But the difference between making her put it on, be like, okay, are you going to put it on here or there? Are you going to it's always trying to get her to engage in the choices with it. And we're not that different. Maybe is like this for you, but mostly I think nobody likes stuff being taken away from us. We don't like our choices being taken away. However, we can introspect and proactively be like, I don't get drunk anymore, but the drink a day I have, it's actually not currently in service to my clarity. And it is on the list of things that I could take out of the jar to let this big, awakening stone be in the center of the jar, or whatever it is. It might not, it could be a thousand things, right? Maybe it's your pride that prevents you from learning from someone. Because you're like, oh, I got this. I'm however old and I should have this. But you know what it is. It's something that's true for you. If we proactively choose at this far end of the dance of the solstice to take something to the far edge of the contact with the other world that's available in these seasonal holidays, and be like, I'm just going to set this down right here and then back away from it and move back into the middle zone of the year and of the cycles. I'm going to set it down here, though. It doesn't need to travel with me anymore. That can open up a lot of space. A lot of our growth is through subtraction. Just bring that to practice. That feels like about enough to say. And I am interested to hold the space for 10, maybe 15 minutes, probably 10, for you to listen into your own guidance about what we've been talking about. The principles are kind of straightforward. You're probably familiar with them in 101 ways already. But it's in the intuitive, personalized enacting of them where they become useful and where the actual shifts happen. So you identify accurately what it is you need to release or continue to keep out of your world to guard that awakening spirit. And then you make sure to actually do that. So I'll talk you through a space of just listening to see what might be helpful for you. Go ahead and bring your attention to your heart, your belly, your hips, your feet, the earth beneath you, and do what helps you to be rooted in your body. And while that's happening, call your connections to the sacred to be present. Whatever you already know and trust to be true for you, your connection to your ancestors, the earth, God, the deities. But notice how it is for you and let those ones be present. And with those ones present, hold intent that your personal space is clear from interference, negativity, or any energy you don't need to be carrying right now. So let there be a moment of clearing or cleansing of your space. And finally, hold intent that your space have a layer of gentle protection. There's a kind of sphere or bubble or container around you that only what is good for your life and path are welcome inside. And from that place of being rooted in your body, connected to the sacred, clear and protected, notice the felt sense of your spiritual support around you and your own connection internally to love and beauty and goodness. Take a moment, if you would, and notice the larger energy of the solstice and however that is for you. See if there's any felt sense of the moment that we're in. And from that place, take a moment to just listen. And if there's something really dynamic happening for you in that listening, then it's good to stay with that. Otherwise, I'll invite you, if you want, to imagine a thing with me. I want you to imagine yourself. You don't need to know any of the details, just the energy of it. Imagine yourself a year from now at the solstice. And imagine you just had the best year of your life. And I want you to ask that future self, what is helpful? What's going to need to go for me to get from here to there? What's going to support this next year being a really good year for my soul? See what might unfold from that listening. As you can notice not the and notice the energy of it. Notice the feeling of your future self helping you along. It doesn't have to be big changes. Take another moment just in that listening, and perhaps there's also a gesture here of strengthening or reaffirming your intent that your own soul level cultivation and presence be really high priority in your life. If it's already like that, great. Reaffirm it. And if there's something important happening for you, stay with it. But there's just one more layer I want to invite. Um, it might be a funny thing to say, but from your place of center, just in your circle, I want you to try on the kind of bold um, assertion like, what if it's the best year yet here on Earth ahead? What if through all the static and all the noise and all the turmoil, what if in the next year there's actually a lot of really good breakthrough and a lot of seeds germinating and a lot of progress made on necessary changes? See if you can indulge like 2 minutes of letting yourself be irrationally hopeful about how we could get it together. You can go back to the grumpy pessimism in like 2 or 3 minutes, but like give yourself just a minute to try it on as a kind of prayer. And maybe you notice how much fear there is at change, how scary it is for so many people. And for me, at least, the prayer here feels something like, to the larger world and to ourselves, you can do it. I know it's scary, but you can do it. In that way, may we all be good allies, not just to ourselves, but to others who are trying to find the courage to live in more conscious ways. So take just a final moment of listening with your own guidance and with the spirits. Is there anything else that needs to happen in this moment? Anything that needs to actually be set down now? Or do you need to be real sure what it is, what those tangible things are? Taking a moment to thank the powers that are supporting you. And if you want to stay in a listening space, that's great, of course. But we'll transition attention out of the space of guided practice. And I'd like to make a little space here. There's a lot of folks in the circle, but is there anyone who would want to ask or share a thing from the heart? I would just say that if you do, succinctly say a word about where you're at, and kind of go to the heart of it in light of time and a lot of people, and keep it heart connected, because that's just the moment we're in. But if those things are true for you and you want to say a thing, it's welcome. Mm. Yeah, Marianne.
So I have had a very fruitful life experience creating art, but I have not had a fruitful life being an artist. There's something really that I'm recognizing is constricting for me about those paths, even though there are lots of them within that. And so as I sit in what is unfolding out of that, I'm wondering if you could suggest like something around patience. I have a lot of energy and I get excited about a lot of things, and I would like for my energy to stay clear of that pattern.
Yeah. The first thing that occurs to me is to not let capitalism wreck your joy. And easier said than done. We need to eat. There's no like. It's easy to be like, yeah, don't worry about money, but fuck, like everybody needs to like figure out how to provide for themselves, and so that's not that helpful on one level. And if we forget that it's a weird, vulnerable, imperfect kind of thing to try to make our passion also our livelihood, then and I don't know if you're meaning exactly this, but I'm moved to speak to it just in case you mean this. I'm sure it applies for others. I see a lot of people in spiritual circles doing the hustle, as am I, trying to be like, oh, sign up for these courses and stuff. I mean, they're good courses, but I'm selling courses. Like, I'm trying to like provide for my family too in this work and our employees and staff. And it's a weird thing. It can start to impact how you feel about your own creativity and your service and your worth and all that. So know that the vast majority of human beauty that has manifest through our species, like almost all of it in the whole history of us, has not been compensated in any way, in any sort of obvious way. Otherwise, I think patience can come from letting our identification with the body relax, and to remember that we are like a multi-lifetime creature or an older kind of creature, and that in a sense, even this life, this whole specific life we're each having here, is one paint stroke on the canvas of a larger soul unfolding. It's not limited by this one life. And so time is really different in that way on a soul level. So if we can access the sense that we're as old as the rivers and rocks, we may or may not feel more patient, but our sense of time will at least be kind of agitated and unstuck. And that's worthwhile. And I think maybe related to what you're asking about. Does anything, Marianne, from that land? I realize it may not be getting to the heart of your question. Yeah.
Yes, but both of them do. I mean, I know that both of those things are true, and I knew them before you said them, but the sense of like urgency, there's a sense of urgency around both of those things
Yeah.
in the culture that we live in. And so that, like reminder, like, because I'm an artist, I think visually. So you just saying we're as old as the river and the rock. So if I feel a sense of urgency, I now have something that I can automatically, right, associate visually, and it
Yeah.
becomes more true in my body than just me thinking about like circumstances, um, which are also true.
Yeah. Look, urgency and fear and all that get a bad rap. Urgency is sacred too. There is urgency in the world now. It's well founded. There's a lot to feel urgent about. And there's a layer of what we are that's never moved and is still, even in the chaos. That's also totally true. And so in that way, it's a question of what access of what part of my full range do I not currently have access to? And being
Yeah.
curious about that, because that will be the thing that brings fresh energy to your creativity. And then just making sure, if you're not already, to create in partnership with the powers, so that there's not a confusion that you're the creator only, that it's an arising, that you don't, there's not really ownership over it. Especially when we start to sell a thing, it's just we become identified with it. It's mine. And there's a lot of ritual practice and tech for trying to counter that tendency to want to own a thing. Yeah. But good. Thank you, Marianne. That's I appreciate what you're bringing. Yeah. Yeah. Ren?
As I was in the practice, sort of wondering what I could let go of that may provide space for the things that really matter.
Mhm.
Just a very simple thing. For example, I stay up too late, and maybe I'll watch some TV, or maybe I just putz around doing I don't even know what, but I don't get
Yeah.
enough sleep, and then I'll want to sleep in, and so I decide, all right, I'm going to go. What will serve is I'll go to bed earlier. I'll make a commitment to do that, and then immediately I go to in the morning. Okay, so I'll get up at 7 or I'll get up at 6:30, and then I start filling it in like, okay, then I'm gonna take a walk. So I'm taking care of my physical body, and then I'm gonna do the spiritual work, and then I'm gonna practice my Spanish, and then and I have this tendency already toward rigidity and perfectionism and being really hard on myself. And so it feels like my ego structure is kind of co-opting my my good intention. And yeah, so I mean, what's coming through is that I just need to have a lighter touch. But anyway, I just wonder if you have any comment on how that little conundrum that happens there.
It's always like that with the ego or the self. We can't go to war with ourselves. It's not, it just strengthens the confusion. There's a kind of delicate like coaching or blending with and then guiding, I think, of the it's such a big topic. It's hard to generalize. Sometimes it is relevant to be like, no, you can't do this in terms of parenting. You're not always going to like get your child to do the thing. Sometimes it's like, no, I'm going to pick you up and put you in the car because we must go now and you can have a tantrum. But if you can do it the nice way, it's better. It's like, oh, come on, look, come in the car. And there's a part of us that wants to claim ownership of things, and there's a part of us that is not inherently bad. It's not also so different from the part of us that wants to be good. Look what I did.
Mhm.
Look what I did. Like, Daddy, I washed the dish or whatever. Like little, just like I want to be good. Look, I went to bed early. I did this. I did it. Like, oh my goodness, just trying to like be more balanced, and now it's I. And so there's like a sense of humor about it, I think, that's important. And just bringing it back to practice. There's nothing wrong with having a healthy self. And sometimes it's like when we're in that mood where it's like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna like, me. Just like we just kind of like need a hug. It's like, you're good enough. It's okay. You can relax. You don't actually have to make the sun rise today. I know it's scary, but it's going to rise all by itself. Oh, but even yeah, be easy with yourself, and get some sleep. Both is kind of like the blend, I think,
Mhm.
and have a sense of humor about it. Yeah.
Thank
Trying to get it just right becomes its own kind of self-absorption sometimes.
Right.
So the antidote really is others, and shifting our attention back to the relational field when we're getting too up in our own, spin out. Yeah, good. Okay. Why don't I can stay for a few other questions, but I also want to acknowledge the time and allow for a kind of moment of pause, and just remind folks that we do have a lot going on with the organization, and we have a commitment to accessibility. And so if you need cost reduction or scholarship and all that, we can almost always work it out. It's always been the case, and it matters a lot to me and the team. It's one of our core values. So let us know if you are drawn to be involved, then come be involved. We'll figure it out. And if you think you might want to train to guide ancestral healing practices for others, that's a thing. We do a good job at that particular thing. So yeah, also that option. Thank you, everybody, for your care and presence this evening. And thanks to the others who listen in after. I hope you have a good start to your coming season, summer or winter, as it might be. And I will stay for a few questions, but that's the exit ramp for people who have other plans for your rest of your day. Thank you for being here. Hayla, good to see you.
Hi, I love these talks. Solstice here on the west coast of Washington just came in so perfectly. It was all gray and rainy and cold, and like it is here, which is also beautiful. But today, the sun is shining, and we're just at the beginning of a wonderful, warm season. And your talk, your suggestion about solstices being sort of the bungee jump really struck me. I had an encounter last week that was just there was an ugly, angry person, and it didn't really make sense. But anyway, I sort of let it just pass by me. Yeah, it was aimed at me, but I just let it go. And I realized today on Solstice that I had let something go that I could have engaged with. This was minor, really, but I have done that a lot more recently in my life. Let go of stuff that I could have hung on to. And wow, today the sun is shining and there's space, and it smells really good, and it feels good to be outside. And I just realized that as you were talking, I mean, it's so clear that letting go opened up all this space, and all this nice, just lovely happiness came in. So thank you.
Thanks, Hayla. Yeah. I think of, I don't share about it publicly so terribly much, but a tradition and a lineage is really dear to me is Islam. And like all of the, it's not unique to the prophetic lineage and Abrahamic traditions, but I'll use that example because one I know. And in the stories about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his life, like he's treated badly. And that's true of so many people. Like we don't have to reach 1400 years ago for examples of people trying to bring a kind and unitive spirit to the world who are treated badly. This happens to public figures. It happens to everybody on this call at some moment or another has been going about your day and being kind and minding your business. And somebody crosses your world and treats you like garbage. And I think there's I'm excited in about 6 weeks, maybe, or less. I'm going to start a course I've been waiting to teach for a couple of years, at least, on relating with evil and malice and looking at the explicitly harmful and cruel aspects of our being and the larger reality. And I think it's important to be able to talk about it and understand it. And the thing I'm moved to say in this moment is just that if you put that big rock in the jar of, I'm going to be as awake as I can be. I'm going to go for it and let my life organize around that intention and work hard for it and, make it possible. Odds are people are going to treat you even worse. May it not be that way. I'm not saying it has to be that way. People might be so friendly to you. You might have the be friendly to me, invisible sign over your head, and people read it and they're like, wow, you're such a friendly, awake person. But if it's anything like the stories in every tradition everywhere, it will probably go like, some people really appreciate you and other people are like, I don't even know why I hate you. I just hate you. I hate you. And we'll act accordingly. And when that happens, it's really, really easy to let it wreck your day or your week or your year, because it might have really stark consequences. So all I would say about it in this moment is it is an adaptive skill to let some of that roll off. And it's really important to remember that just because people are treating you bad doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but being treated bad alone, it doesn't mean you did anything deserving for that. It's so easy to get into wow, this happening. I remember I got assaulted years ago, years ago. And the police came and they were basically like, I didn't start the fight. I really didn't. I swear to God, I didn't start it. And the police came and they're like, what? What did you do? You must have done something to provoke this person. What, what did you do to cause this? And I was flustered, but in retrospect, I'm like, that's a bullshit question. Not what happened, maybe, or did you do something to provoke it? Maybe even, but that's still kind of a bullshit question. But sometimes people act in unkind ways, and it's not symmetrical. It's not that the person who's the recipient of that did anything so-called to deserve it. That's what comes to mind in this moment. And but in terms of what's the cost of a conscious life, a common thing is Spirit say I need to step out and be a little more visible with what I'm bringing to the world, but I'm afraid there's going to be backlash. There might be. Just because you're afraid doesn't mean that if you pray hard enough and soothe yourself and say all the right things that there won't be backlash. That's like a weird control stance. You can't control what other people do. They might be terrible to you. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It's tricky. This is a vulnerable thing to step out. Yeah. Good. Let's do a last question and then we'll wrap up. Mitra, I'm beginning to know how to say your name. If you're able to be on camera, it's kind of nice, but you don't have to be. Hey.
Thanks for holding this space, and I just felt moved to contribute because it's so apt, this topic for me in my life at the moment. I think from what you've said, learning to let go of what stands in the way of learning, particularly being prideful or being stubborn or being
Are you the one I was saying that for? I'm like, why am I saying that?
maybe.
I'm just teasing. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of thing, just hit home. And I suppose I struggle with being able to, put just to allow my I guess my head to hit the concrete and hit something real. I'm kind of airy fairy in my mind all the time, and up in my own illusions, and I'm not sort of allowing myself to touch the reality of where I'm at the moment in my own life.
I could say a thing about it, but I want to make sure I've listened carefully. Did you express what you wanted? Yeah.
Yeah, so also just the another theme of being concerned that I'm going to, I suppose, miss the boat or not understand, you know, uh, to be jumbled and to kind of not quite understand what I'm supposed to be doing in this time period. So a lot of what you've said has been very helpful, but then I'm also, I suppose, worried. Am I letting go of the right thing? Is it going to come to pass? Is it going to come to fruition? I suppose there's that underlying fear as well.
Yeah. What comes to mind? I don't, I don't presume that it has relevance for you, but what comes to mind is a couple things. The first is that there's no substitute for practice.
Mhm.
And I remember early like Zen teacher years ago just being like, if you're spending more time reading about Zen than meditating, you get your priorities wrong. Like, it's funny. It's like, oh, he's talking about me. I'm like, I'm gonna sit and read what to do. And so there's a way in which just engaging in ritual or prayer, meditation, or whatever practices you'll do will tend to keep things from getting too in like a thought, like too stuck in like a thought world only. Because we can create whole worlds of thought out of our mood, or like the current mood is this, therefore, whatever. I've watched, like, when I have a migraine, I'm like, I would be a conservative Republican if you could take away this migraine, like anything. Like my whole worldview is like, it doesn't matter. I don't have any core values or anything anymore. And so our state will create a whole world, a mental palace around it. So practice is so important. I mean, the people who do spiritual practice get the benefit of the practices, whatever they are. The other thing is just that the unconscious internalizing of what I consider, not to be so nerdy about it, but just like colonialist frameworks, colonialist epistemologies, or ways of knowing, ways of perceiving the world, ways of organizing the world. They get in the way of our direct spiritual knowing or gnosis or awakening in ways that are tricky and take some creative like effort to interrupt. And the best ways I know, the most efficient ways I know to like smoke out, like identify and bring conscious, these like deeply unconscious ways of filtering the world, are to come back into relationship with the ancestors, the plants, the animals, the rivers, the deities, the land spirits, the old gods, the others, the many others who are quite sentient, quite alive, have their own personalities, etc. Relating with them is normal, and it will inherently agitate the parts of us that have been conditioned to think that that's a bunch of bullshit, and will stir up doubt and worry that we're going to look embarrassed or shameful for doing those kinds of things, for like talking to the plants or whatever. And And that kind of like doubt and confusion is so good. It's moving from like stuck clarity into fruitful confusion. And in that way, confusion is a friend. It is an indicator that we have interrupted a problematic homeostasis that's preventing us from seeing and engaging in a bigger reality.
Mm.
So in that way, like, notice if some part of you is like afraid to just like be all disorganized and not make sense. That's it. It could actually be really fruitful, especially if it's not in isolation. If you come in, if you greet the local water spirits wherever you're at in the land, and you're like, all right, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I'm gonna try this. Hello. And then your dreams get lit up, and then you're like, ooh, I think I did something. What did I do? And then stuff starts happening. That's an interesting kind of confusion, because it's not in isolation. It's relational impact from coming back into connection with the rest of life. We can't figure out our problem in isolation. When isolation is the problem, we are reinforcing it by trying to think our way out of a mental prison. Yeah.
Thank you.
So for me, the plants have been really healing lately. I've been like on the computer too much, and then I'm just parenting computer. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I've been gathering mindfully little bundles of abundant local native plants, and I'm like looking at the Pratama Maria behind me, or the Cantueso, Spanish lavender, and I'll put the Spanish name and the English name and the Latin name, and really just like greet them, and you know, decorating our home too, but I'm inviting them in and getting to know them. And it interrupts my human-centric admin in service to earth healing. I'm like, damn, is this what happens if you like have a successful career as a ritualist? You sit in front of the computer all day. It's got to be another way. So anyways, thank you everybody for your time. Why don't we wrap up? I hope something made sure from that landed okay.
Very much so. Thank you very much.
Cool. Yeah. I appreciate you all, and have a good rest of your solstice and a good start to your summer or winter if you got any southerners here. Be good with yourselves. Take care.